Hey, hey, it's Friday! And thank you. Hi, Mr. Anonymous. Alright, it's Friday. Thank you for coming by ToryMagoo44. Hang on. Excuse me. Thank you very much for coming by, and thank you to all of you for your questions. They were fantastic. They are fantastic. And I'm going to read them and try to answer them as best I can. So these are from different people from my YouTube site, and they're different questions. I asked them yesterday, and Mrs. Witch, and she asked the questions, and for frequently asked questions, and one of them she came up with was maybe you guys could ask some questions, and I'll answer them. So here we go. These are some that came up. All right, so the first one is from Cinnamon Molly, all right, and she said, my question to you, why doesn't the law enforcement rescue Heber gents and others who are in the hole? For anyone who doesn't know what the hole is, a lot of the top executives in Scientology are now locked in what's called the hole. And you can Google it. It's that people have spoken about it. People who were in the hole, Claire Headley, one of them, for a year. I mean, it's an awful thing. You said, I read somewhere that Heber Gents feels he'll never get out of the RPF alive. That certainly sounds like someone who's being held against his will. Prisoners of war have the Red Cross to go in and verify their well-being. It seems like someone should verify the well-being of Scientologists who are on the RPF. It literally almost makes me cry. It's awful. It's so true. It's such a good point. I mean, they have nothing. I remember being in Scientology in a wise company and saying, you know what, we need a union. We do. Because we were getting royally screwed. We weren't getting paid. And there was no one to go to because they were paying Wise. Wise was paying the Church of Scientology. So nobody was backing up us. It was like, we're screwed. And that's the way it is. That's really the way it is. So with the RPF, you're so right. They should have something. And maybe we could get the Red Cross to go in there. That's an idea. So anyway, any of you are welcome to call the Red Cross, see if they'll do anything on that. I love that idea. Thank you, Cinnamon Molly. All right, so the next one is from SN3KZ. All right. So, was there any fun time to be had in the Sea Org, or was it exactly like the lifeless North Korean that I imagine it to be? Now, again, John's going to do a whole series on the Sea Org because he was in it for 10 years. I was only in it for 6 months, and they routed me out because I was taking medicine for epilepsy, and they said, we're the top 10% of the planet, you can't be on medication, blah, blah, blah. And my mother said, they're going to kill you trying to get you off your medication, as I was trying and having grand mal seizures. So I was only in for a little bit of time. And for me, you know, I was in this dreamboat thing of like, we're handling mankind and we're helping mankind. So for me, it's hard to say. You know, I don't really think the Sea Org has a lot of fun. I don't. They work them to death. There's tons of stories out on the internet. I'm sure there's a little bit of fun that people have, but when you combine how much they work, how many falsehoods were told to them, like they're going to get their whole bridge to total freedom if they work, and they get nothing. There's very few staff members that are clear. Anyway, I'll let John answer that. He's going to do that in November. He's going to do a whole thing on the Sea Org. But thank you for the question, and I'll pass it over to him. I was recently, now this is from, I'm not sure if I'm going to say this name right. It's Varaqiyal. Thank you for your question. I was recently thinking about taking a remote control copter high over the land base in Hemet, where the hole is and where David Miscavige lives, late at night and dropping literature. What literature would I recommend? And a well-worn copy of Marty's book, or instructions on how to leave the occult, or something completely different? You know, first of all, let's get a couple things straight. The hole is no longer out in Hemet. It's here in Los Angeles at the complex. So Miscavige moved it. Secondly, Mark Headley told me he really doesn't hang out out in Hemet that much anymore. He lives next to Author Services, which is down the street from the Egyptian on Hollywood Boulevard. That's where Author Services is, and his pad is right next to it. And that's what Headley said. He mainly hangs there. So I wouldn't really spend the money on renting a copter to go over there. Some other people already have. The photographs are already on the net. There's tons of stuff about Hemet already at this point. If anything, if we can find out where they really are, and what I would suggest is once a week on Thursday, go by with a bus saying, we'll take you now. If you come right now, we'll take you, we'll help you. Come on now, to the people that are in the hole or RPF. And you don't, and this is for the thing with Heber, you know, I don't think I finished answering that, but you don't owe it to them. Like Heber, that was one of the things I remembered, is he told his son, Alexander, before he died, which is Alexander passed away at 27, which is awful. But before he died, he told his son that he felt he needed to stay in the hole because of all the bad deeds he'd done. How sad is that? Oh, it's just awful. I knew Heber when he walked in the door at Celebrity Center back in the early 70s with long hair and his guitar and singing Old Blue. And I remember being in and we sang, you know, he's been gutted. That's how it felt. It just felt like Heber was gone and this corporate entity was there. Okay, so anyway, moving right along. Okay, so I hope that answered your question. Let me know if it didn't. All right, and this is from Ali Radicali. I like that name. All right, I know this is going to sound like a huge cliche, but how the heck do they get people to stay once they reach the Xenu stuff? Good point. It seems like such a hard pitch to sell, even to people who are thoroughly indoctrinated and massively invested. It goes to show how education really needs to put a bigger emphasis on critical thinking skills and skepticism. Anyway, great series. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate the question. It's a really good point. I mean, for me, I can tell you for me personally, I have epilepsy. I got onto OT3 back before. Now they have a big course to walk you into how insane it is, you know, kind of learning where all the volcanoes are and stuff like that. So by the time you read the materials, it sort of fits. But back when I was on it, they just gave you the materials. And you started in, you know, and you've heard from everybody, oh, it's so fantastic. Oh, Tory, this is going to be the level for you. This is going to change your life. And, you know, so you've already got all these people packing this into your head, right? So you're really ready for this is it for me, Tory, especially, right? And so then I walked into like a closet, literally, because they didn't have like big course rooms back then for it. In Clearwater, because I went there with my husband and we moved there, and I was at Flag, and I go into this little closet and I open up the pack and it says he nearly died researching it, but 75 million years ago, blah blah blah, and he goes into the whole thing about Xenu. And my very first thought was, you've got to be kidding me. This can't possibly be OT3. You know, it can't possibly be. But then there's the old saying, a man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest. And that's exactly what happened to me. I thought, now wait a minute. Nobody knows what causes epilepsy and seizures. Because you can go to any neurologist, doctor. They don't really know. That's what they say. They know how to control it, but they don't really know what causes it. So I thought, maybe it's these BTs and clusters. And I swear to God, on OT3, I had the biggest wins ever. Why? Because I thought every time these BTs and clusters that I thought I was getting rid of, which you have to remember, you're really creating them yourself and then getting rid of them. But point being, I believed it. I thought once I got rid of them, I was getting rid of epilepsy. So people around the base were coming up to me saying, wow, we've never seen anybody on OT3 change like you're changing. And I was physically changing. I mean, it was amazing. It really did show how if you truly and honestly believe something enough, it can really affect you. It really can. And that's why I think so many people die in Scientology. I do, because they really believe they're covered with these BTs and clusters. Because the more people die on OT5 to 7, because that's where they're unconscious and dead, and you know, and they can be miles and miles away, like thousands of miles away. And I think people go insane, they go crazy, they commit suicide, they kill themselves, they die. I think the tech itself kills them, because if you believe it enough, and a very top review auditor agrees with me on that. She called me. She used to be a review auditor for OT8, and she said she thinks it's the tech itself. She left because so many OT8s died. That's why she left. She said she just couldn't do it anymore. It was just too weird. And so then we were talking about it, and we both agreed medical science has already proven, what you really think. Hang on, I've got this frog in my throat. Ah! Here's my sparkling ice. It's really great if you don't have it. It's from Costco. It's $10, and you get a whole bunch of them, all different flavors. Okay, so anyway, moving right along. There you go. I hope that answers your question. I totally agree with you regarding education and emphasis on critical thinking skills. Okay, let me just make sure I answered your question. Okay, so I hope that answers it. I'd like to see a hard pitch sell. Even the people who are thoroughly... It isn't really a hard pitch sell also. That's the other thing. You have to understand mind control and indoctrination, peer pressure. By the time you get to OT3, you've jumped through so many hoops saying, it's me. I give in one of my talks, I pick out one person in an audience of about 100, and I say, I think we've gotten it together, and we think you can make it. Just you. The rest of these people, they're never going to make it to OT3. But you, we think you can. But you've got to, leap through these hoops, pay for it, prove to us that you really are secure. You're going to keep the material secure. You're not going to show anybody. So in other words, you have to go through all these hoops and, yes, it's me. It's me. I'm really ready. I am. No. It's me. I'm Tory. Me. Pick me. Pick me. I'm ready. So then by the time you get on it, they're not selling it. You're just blessed that you got on it. You have to literally now get from RTC, which is the top dogs, an invitation to do these OT levels, which is, such a mind control bullshit thing. And if you're in the RTC, you know it. You know it's true. You know what I'm saying. Okay, so there you go. John Torrance, 67, asks, what does a person who gets through OT8 do? Is there anything else? Do people ever finish? How many end up leaving? Excuse me. And finally, you just have to put up with this frog. Sorry. And finally, where did you get the witch? My aunt used to make puppets like that. I got it at St. Joseph's Hospital when my mother was dying. She was in the hospital, and she was a wonderful witch every Christmas. And so I bought a couple of those witches in honor of her because I thought, I want some wonderful witches to remind me of my mother every single... I have like all kinds of fun things for Halloween, but witches are fantastic because they remind me of my mom. She was a real witch. I mean, she would dress up like a witch and scare people to death, but she would do fun things. I've told you about it. And so anyway, that's where I got it. And what do they do after they do OT8? They're still, it's the Truman Show. They're in the show. They have to be helping other people. This is a true story at Flag. The executives were really pissed off at the OT8s. My husband was an OT8, and I was like, I don't get it. I mean, I knew how much we struggled to pay for all these things, to do them. It was a really hard deal, right? So why are they pissed off at the OT8s? You know what they said? David Miscavige expects the OT8s to either buy a mission and start a mission or join the Sea Org. That's it. Anything else is not acceptable. So all of them, they have that pressure. If they're not doing those two things, they've got to be volunteering, which I found out my ex-husband is doing, going out to Inglewood, which is like an hour away for him, at night to volunteer. Amazing. But, they've got to do their stuff, chip in money, whatever, keep helping the planet. And, of course, Miscavige is always promising he's going to come up with 9, 10, 11. And we have that paid for because his parents bought a package of 9, 10, 11, and 12. So we each have a package of that. How funny is that? Okay, is there anything else? There's supposed to be 9, 10, 11, and 12. People who have been way, way at the top, with the executives say no way. There isn't. They'll probably create something to make more money, but there really isn't. Hubbard didn't write it, no. Do people ever finish it? It's a mind control train. You have to understand that. It's a money train. That's what it started at. Hubbard said, you want to make money, start a religion. That's what it started at. That's what it's going to finish as. So as long as you're on the train, no, there's no end to it. You got to come up to the next one. You got to do the next thing. There's always something that they'll get you for. How many end up leaving? Tons now. It's amazing. We were just meeting with someone last night telling them how dramatically different it is from the old days. old days, which is, even like 10, 20 years ago, it was like, even pre-2008, it was like a few people, but you wouldn't hear about them. It was very rare. People left. Well, really, the internet was the major change in people leaving. Once 2000 came and Scientology put the Scientologists on the internet with their net nannies on the internet so that they couldn't see any of the negative stuff, right? And they did that all real covertly. And if you haven't read about that, I've done videos on the net nanny, but you can find out where they covertly got us to put it on our computers. So you, the regular person, could type in Scientology and you'd see their side and you'd see the dark side. But Scientologists just see a piece of blue sky. Now, how that works now with phones and computers everywhere, I really don't know. I doubt it. But I know that they mentally build into the traps where you stop looking and thinking and critically looking. Because it's, they scare you. Okay, now, so that's to John Torrance 67. I think I answered all those. So now, Eaten Alive 85. All right. I have a question. When you escaped, what was it like starting your life over from scratch? Did you have any money, a job, and a place to live during those first few months? Very good question. Okay, first of all, thank God for Stacy Brooks, Bob Minton, and Jesse Prince, and Mark Bunker. Those people were, I don't know that I would be out of the Church of Scientology without them. Because I know my husband and Bill Yachty and a bunch of people would have, just kept feeding me horrible stories about them. And I don't know. I somehow I got the courage. And it isn't somehow. I know how. And it does have to do with higher powers. It does. And I'm not going to even go into that. But that's how I escaped. And those people helped me. And without them, I wouldn't have probably been out. But once I got out, and my husband, I knew, was going to divorce me, and I lost all my friends and my husband of 27 years overnight, I did cry for about 2 years, on and off, all the time. Wherever I would walk into one of our old haunts, I would burst out crying. But I set up 5 people that I could call, and they would help walk me through it. And then they were fantastic. They saved my life. They really did. Bob was one of them. I won't name all of them, but they know who they are. And they were there for me. And they helped me. Nancy Maney let me stay in her house so I could stay there. Another one of my friends let me stay in her house, so I kind of juggled between the two of them until I really got it together, which took a little while. It really did. It's kind of a spooky thing to leave a cult because, no, I didn't really have money. I didn't have a job. I didn't really have a place to live, so I was kind of juggling between their places. I will say this. I am a firm believer, and if you put up your antennas and you let people know what's happening with you, magical things can happen. And here's an example. I've said it before, but I'll tell it now. People all through the time when I left just walked into my life, gave me one piece of thing that helped me, a piece of information or something, and that was it. And this one lady walked into my life. I was at a party. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I escaped out of a cult." She said, "Where do you live?" I said, "I don't know. I have to find someplace. My husband's kicking me out." And she said, "Bullshit. You're single. You're divorced. You don't have a job. You don't have any, you don't have any credit. Kick him out. Don't let him kick you out. You've been there long enough. Kick him out." And it was such a great thing. And it just shows you never know what you might say that can change someone's life. And it did. I went home and I told my husband, I said, "No, I'm not leaving, you're leaving." And he did. He packed up and he left. And that was a really big blessing. And a lot of people came into my life like that helped me in a lot of different ways. So I finally got a job and I live here and excuse me, and it's ended up being fine. People on the net helped me a ton. Friends help me. I mean, it just, every single person counts when somebody's leaving an internet, or leaving a cult. And people on the internet are a huge blessing. Because you may think it's just you and it's no big deal, but it's a big deal. When you lose all your friends of 30 years, I mean, every single person that's written me something kind is very dear in my heart. It meant a lot to me. And you have no idea how awful some things can be. I mean, one of the worst things for me was finding all my personal videos of my son and my friends and my life and having them all be erased. And I was so upset. I was in my car. I was just hysterical. I was driving over to the HGC. I was going to stand out there and just scream my lungs out. I want my fucking videos back. And then I realized, wait a minute, they want this because they're going to put you in a mental hospital. And I called my girlfriend. She said, turn the car around, get over here right now. And she did walk me through it, and it really helped. And I thank her forever for that. Okay, so anyway, Eaten Alive. So that was from Eaten Alive. Okay, I better move along because this is getting long. Mark, I hope I say your name right. Sikash? Is that right? Okay, here's a question that's bugged me for a while. If OT8s are so perceptive, why can't they perceive at a relatively close distance, that a Sea Org member is being punished in an engine room or bilge or held on the free ones against their will? Or if they can perceive such a thing, wouldn't they do something about it, or at least feel the urge to do something about it before going in session? Really good question. First of all, they don't have OT powers. You know, if they had OT powers, they could go to James Randi and get paid $1 million. So there you go on that. But can they see RPF? Yes, I saw them. Do you know that they're getting tortured? I did not. I knew it was sort of crummy and awful, but Scientology has their way of pitching it, which is, you know, the Sea Org works night and day. But when they're on the RPF, they get to work half a day and co-audit half a day, so they get some auditing. And I was always concerned because they never got their bridges, so I thought, okay, that works. And you have to remember, you're you're in a mind control cult, so it is that a man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest. So no, they don't have those powers to do that. But thank you for the question. Okay, this is Adam G. Tori, do you feel that the training routines on the communication course are the gateways that are used to get you to accept hypnotic suggestions? I do. Yes, I do. And so do other people. They definitely do. And it's tricky because they do seem like they're just simple and they're just these little routines. But they are hypnotic and they do get you to accept various things from there. Okay, and then I don't know how to say this. It's a really long name. YRTEMMYSCIRTEMMYSA. You guys probably know how to say it. I don't. But here's the question. But the communication tool is not from Scientology. But I have a question to a Scientologist. Do Scientologists use neurolinguistics? I'm not sure on that. Someone else needs to answer that who really knows neurolinguistics. I think so, but I'm not positive. You could probably Google Scientology plus neurolinguistics, and it'll tell you, there'll be articles written about it. Okay, and this is from Asobucko888. Good, Nick. All right, another very good aspect of I think it's did CFS you never mentioned, or regarding Church of Scientology you never mentioned, is that it made me reconsider the positive social value of the Holy Inquisition. Oh, this is good. In the Middle Ages, criminals like LRH and Tom Cruise would be already burnt alive. That is such a great point, and very, very true. He wrote me later and said, wow, I thought you would have banned me. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to ban people for good questions like that or even good points. The only reason I get rid of people is if they're just hacking my YouTube account, with nothing, distraction, degrading people, that kind of thing. And OC, you know it. And if they pop on, anybody can. My suggestion, whenever you see that kind of thing, is just start posting facts about L Ron Hubbard, because they don't like those facts to get out. All right, good question. Okay, so the Ericus. Okay, here this is from the Ericus. My question to Magoo is: since you were inside for so long, did you ever meet Lafayette Ronald Hubbard himself? If so, what was he like? If not, did you know people in the church who met him? And if they have, since they left the cult, have they told you what they really thought of him? Okay, I have answers to both of those. Number one, my husband had met L Ron Hubbard when he was 5. And this is kind of I'll tell you 2 stories about L Ron Hubbard. One, This is the cuter side of him. My husband went with his parents to these early lectures that are like the master with the 1950s. They got in 1950, and they went to all his lectures. And my husband, as a young kid, just wanted to sneak in and get some money from his mom so he could get some food. But Hubbard always locked the doors because he knew he was taping and he didn't want any distractions. So my husband got locked in as my mother-in-law's son, and now he's there. So he's sitting there, and it's like really boring. It's like fate and mind and body and blah, blah, blah. And Hubbard's like blabbing away, which he always did. And, you know, my ex-husband was like, oh, God, when's it going to end? Anyway, finally it ends. He comes outside, and he said, this big, burly guy with red hair leans down and looks him in the eyes, and he's, like, really afraid. He's going to ask, like, what was I talking about? You know, and kind of grill him. And he looked him right in the eyes, and he said, are they giving you enough popcorn and peanuts, young man? And to him, he went, that's the guy. This guy totally knows me. So that's a cute side of L Ron Hubbard. This is Laurel Sullivan, who was his personal public relations officer. When I left, I met Laurel Sullivan. And I said, you know, I don't get it, because I was pretty successful in PR with the Church of Scientology. And she said, exactly, but you were never trained in L Ron Hubbard PR, were you? And I said, no, really, I wasn't. It was just my parents. They were kind of PR people. My dad was a broadcaster. I kind of got it from them. And she said, exactly, and that's why you were successful. We, who were trained in L Ron Hubbard's public relations tools, and she was with him every day, we were kicked out of every single port around the world. So what does Laurel Sullivan think of L Ron Hubbard? Well, you can connect the dots on that one. But many people who did work with him don't have great things to say about him. You know, some people still have their, like, oh, he's a great guy. But most of the people I've met who worked with him, no, they don't. Okay, now, hang on. Let's see who this is. Oh, yeah. All right, I'm almost done. Okay, so let's see. This is from the Evils of Scientology. I think I've got this right. What people need to know are, there's nothing, the only original things LRH has ever created. I think the Evils of Scientology. Well, somebody said, are they still following you or causing you to trouble you? Do they give up in the end? Scientology is never going to give up. They're writing lies about me as we speak. You can see them on the internet, on Scientology Religious Freedom Watch. They've got a ton of lies about me on there that they won't take off, and they won't talk to me. Same for tons of other ex-Scientologists, critics, anonymous, you know, I mean, but mostly ex-members. You know what I mean? They've got all these lies up about us. And they won't talk to us either. So I think the Evils of Scientology, who thank you for all the things you've done, because you've often made some good points, said what people need to know are that these basic tools are nothing that wasn't already known about at the time. The only original things LRH ever created were new words to describe pre-existing things or actions. He would steal a widely known concept, then repackage and rename it and call it his own. Very true. LRH isn't the only con man to ever do this. Good point. This kind of thing is still happening outside of Scientology to this day. LRH was just lucky enough to find enough people to believe his BS he was peddling. Very, very true. Thank you for that point. And I think it was Mr. Nick Sale, all right, who said, are they still following you and causing you trouble? And do they give up in the end? They're not really following me, mainly not that much, because they've got much bigger problems now. They have countries that are trying to kick them out of their countries. They have huge executives that ran the Church of Scientology that are not only speaking out, they're writing books. They're all over the internet. You can find them. Thank you to every single person who speaks out, every single person who does something. And to all of you who've asked me these questions, thank you so much. I hope my answers have helped you. And if you still have more questions, maybe once a month we'll do this, where we'll do questions and answers. So next month I'll do one again, because this is kind of fun. I mean, there are things that you've come up with that I probably, didn't mention, or, I'm just happy. I hope that I answered them. All right, so there you go. Have a wonderful weekend. Keep the shocking truth alive and let people know. Okay? All right, and thank you so much. And think of questions next month. We'll do it again. Bye-bye.